massive delay.
Is there?
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Okay.
Brilliant.
Well,
good. This will make for natural conversation then. Yeah, come on then.
Let's try it out. Let's start the show and see what happens.
Great. Yeah,
okay.
Let's do that.
If you're ready, here we go.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. You couldn't tell what a massive gap that was. But,
I couldn't hear that.
Anyway, let's continue. Hello. Let's start again because I sound mental. Hello.
Hi.
My name is Seb Philpott.
And my name is Verity Simmons. And this is 3 in a Bar.
Where, hey, it is 3 in a Bar. And this is the show where every week we chat to a different musical guest. And sometimes we talk to brass players. Sometimes we talk to journalists. Sometimes we talk to pop stars.
Brass players or journalists. We're quite niche. String players occasionally. Players that
edit magazines. We haven't done that. We haven't done that.
That would be a win, though.
Yet.
Let's try.
That would be good. Actually, we did. Didn't we talk to Amos Miller? Didn't he? Doesn't he?
Yeah. Does he edit a magazine?
Run a magazine.
Oh, well, there we go. Then we have ticked magazine. All boxes.
What else? We talked to string players. We've talked to a lot of string players, haven't we?
Loads.
We've talked to tour managers.
Yes.
We've talked to, what are the other families of the orchestra?
I was going to say comedian, not a family of the orchestra, but comedian slash
musical
singer.
Comedians. We've talked to those.
Yeah.
We've talked to actual pop stars that have had number one Christmas singles. I mean,
absolutely.
Just one of them. Well, we talked to
we've got the whole spectrum. It's so lovely.
Anyway.
Oh, Seb, you've frozen.
This is the first, isn't it?
You froze. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I carried on talking,
okay.
and then you went like that, like really fast from my end.
No, I did that here as well. That was just me speaking.
Well, I was going to say, I started to say was that it's a first in many ways. We've got, I listed some of the people we've had before. Now, I've gone unstable again, haven't I? I can just see
very unstable. I just thought I'd ride it out. Did you see? I was just trying to sort of sit it out until you came back.
I was riding it out by just talking and talking. This is getting unlistenable.
Keep it up. That's great.
For the listeners, isn't it? Anyway, what I'm trying to say is it's our first woodwind person, but also our first kayaker.
Oh, my God. We thought we got peak niche superhero when we found Dr. Arun Menon, doctor / viola player. But this is a bassoonist / para-kayaker, and her name is Llinos Owen. Woohoo!
Yes, it is. We squeezed this interview in this week, didn't we? It's been a bit of a mad, busy time, but we managed to squeeze it. Don't need to say that. We interviewed her this week.
Keep saying it.
And it was a really brilliant chat, wasn't it? We hadn't met her before. I hadn't met her before. Had you?
No, I think might have met her briefly, but no, I hadn't. And she's great. She had so much, so many interesting things, because she's obviously training at the moment for the international trials for the para-kayak places, which obviously this year is even more intense than ever with the Olympics coming up this summer. So she's in a very intensive training program, but she's also, look, I've got a CV right here. I'm not gonna guess at things. I'm going to tell you exactly what she did.
Go on.
She is also sub-principal bassoon doubling contra with the Royal Ballet Sinfonia, and she works with many chamber ensembles, including the Ensemble Cymru, where she is principal bassoon. And she's a founding member of the bassoon quartet Reed Rage, as well as being principal bassoon of the Northern Chamber Orchestra. And she's also an examiner for the ABRSM. So, literally how she finds time to breathe, I'm not quite sure.
No. Yeah, she'd already trained that morning.
Yeah.
She chatted to us and she was about to pop out again to train again.
Yeah.
You're going to hear all about her rigorous training.
She talks to us a lot about her kayaking. We
took...
I think we were at cross purposes again.
Oh, my God. Your face is like... Your whole body is like in slow motion, but you're talking at double speed.
What an image. What an image that must be.
God. I think Zoom's great, isn't it?
I love it.
Zoom, love it.
Love it.
I don't want to go back to normal life. I just like this.
No, it's great. I feel like all my interactions are so natural. It's perfect. Do you know what? We should probably just cut to the chase then, shouldn't we? Otherwise we're going to ruin this.
Before we go to the chat, I feel I should flag up. I try and make a joke very early on, and it does not land. But
oh yes, I love that bit.
I could have cut it out.
I tell you what, it's all the better for it.
It's a great chat. Keep listening. We're going to go straight to the conversation now, and then maybe we'll have a little chat at the end if we can stand it.
Fingers crossed.
Okay. Llinos Owen coming up.
Hey, Llinos, you're home at the moment then, because did you come down to London was it like an intensive training weekend? Or?
So no, I was down in London because we had a 4 days ballet. So when we did that, so when we did those 4 days of ballet, I came down. But because we're so close to internationals, I had to bring my boat with me because it's been a really weird year actually for that. Because in the past I've been juggling, working and training. And then during the pandemic, the work part of my life has fallen out for for 90% of the time. So in a way, it's enabled me to really focus in on training.
And a lot more juggling.
But then suddenly when work was back in, but then work was back in, it was quite hard to find that balance again. And also by that point, my coach was used to me, being at training all the time. So like his poor face when I told him I'm actually going to be away for 8 days, he was like, "You have to take your boat." It's like, okay.
God.
Yeah.
So where
you have to ride the boat there to make up for it.
Down the canal networks. Where did you train when you were down here then?
So when I was in London, I got in touch with some people, like the paddling fraternity, because obviously all the clubs are closed, so there's nowhere to store a boat and no access onto the water and stuff. But I found a place in Islington where I could park with my blue badge really close to the canal, and there was access onto the canal, and it was just long enough to just do some sprint training. So I just did that, and then I went straight from London to Cardiff. But then that was awesome because I could just go on Cardiff Bay. So that was great. Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. So what's your training at the moment? Like what level of intensity is it at? What are you doing
it's
in the week?
At slightly out of hand intensity level, I would say. Yeah. During the pandemic, I'm training kind of between 10 and 15 times a week. So we do at least Monday to Saturday, and then we have Sunday off. And we train at least once on the water, but there have been some, depending on what the program is, sometimes we'll do 2 water sessions a day and 1 home gym session. So either a home weight session or gym when the gyms are open, and or a core session. Yeah. Yeah. But
that's intensive.
So that's more than once a day, isn't it? 10 to 15 times a week.
Well worked out there.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, at least twice a day, 3 times a day, if energy allows. Yeah.
So what's your specialism? Because are you a sprint kayaker? Sorry for my ignorance with this. But do you specialise in sprints, or are you distance?
No, I'm just sprint. Your terminology is on point, Verity.
Thanks, mate.
But I'm not it's not through choice, it's through lack of options, basically. Because for Paralympic sport, there's only sprint, and it's only 200 metres, and it's only individual.
Right.
It's been really interesting, kind of just drilling down, understanding more about the Paralympics rather than, because I've always been a fan of the Olympics. And then I guess like most people, London 2012 is when everyone started to understand a bit more about the Paralympics. But obviously being part of that world now, I'm understanding more about why there's fewer sports in the para. Because I remember watching, in 2012 was the first Olympics since I'd had my car accident. So since I kind of had a disability, if you like. And so watching it and being like, oh yeah, that's interesting. But actually, I remember being really annoyed at the time because I wasn't particularly sporty before the accident. And obviously after the accident, that part of my life had completely stopped, and I was convinced I was going to just turn into a blob, to be honest, because, I wasn't able to do, can't walk very far, couldn't do the things like, going for walks or anything or playing tennis or things that I was able to do before. So watching the Paralympics was inspiring. But on the other hand, people would often ask me, like, if I'm using a stick or in a wheelchair or something, people would be like, oh, wow, were you in the Paralympics? And I was a bit like, no, were you in the Olympics? Piss off.
Yeah, quite.
And then in 2016 was the first time that para-canoe was in it. And by that time, I'd started kayaking quite a lot. Basically, me and my husband were thinking of things that we could do together that were like adventurous, to be a hobby that wasn't just driving around like old people in a car. And he said, maybe kayaking. So we started doing that. So by the time that the 2016 Rio Olympics Paralympics was on, I was really into sea kayaking and surf kayaking, and I was interested, if there had been a Paralympic discipline in slalom, I would have thought, yeah, that's for me, because I enjoy the kind of danger and the tactics and the white water nature of it. But then when I saw that para-canoe was just sprint, I was like, oh, that's not for me, because it's unbeknownst to me, I was just really stupid and didn't understand the sport. There is tactics and an awful lot of technique and refinement in it. But for me, I just thought, you've just got to be a beast. Like, it's just about going fast and beasting yourself and feeling sick at the end. I was like, oh, no, thank you. That's not for me.
I assumed it would just be like immense upper body strength for that kind of speed. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And it's a lot of like lactic acid tolerance and stuff, because it's similar, because the 200 meter distance takes, like, the able-bodied men are about 35 seconds.
Right.
And so I'm in KL3, which is like the least disabled category in women. And the gold medal time is like 46, 47 maybe seconds.
Yeah.
And so that kind of time is more like 400 meter or 800 meter Olympic sprinting, which is kind of well known for being the really painful, horrible ones. Yeah. Because you're a bit, it's longer than the kind of sprinting, like, the 100 meter sprint. You're into lactic tolerance and lactic pain, but you're not into anaerobic work.
Right.
But you've done all the, I'm going to get all the science wrong. So the phosphocreatine system that, like, gets you off the line and does the first few seconds and stuff. But it's it's not pleasant. Yeah.
And so, you say about the tactics that are involved in a sprint. So how does that?
Well, actually, I guess, it's not so much, it's nowhere near as tactical as, say, marathon racing or slalom, but the technique, and also just understanding where you're going to be and what you're going to feel like. And there's I mean, I was just an idiot watching it and going, oh, it's just going fast and made to be in it.
So say you're aiming for like 47 to 48 seconds or something.
Yeah.
Is there a set number of motions that you have to do within that?
So you tend
always going to be the same.
You might count your number of strokes so that you know that this is around about where I am in my race trajectory, and this is you want to be getting to your top speed at about 40 meters, and you'll be able to hold it for a certain amount of time, and then it does drop off, and because the strokes per minute, I think for my race you're looking at 120, 130 strokes per minute, maybe 140 for some of the quicker girls, and then but often efficiency drops off as your stroke rate goes up, and so you're kind of trying to find that sweet spot where you're wheeling around fast enough but that each stroke is doing your maximum distance per stroke. Sorry, it's very technical.
No, it's fantastic. So the trials that are coming up, is it the Olympic trials that are impending?
So no, these the ones in 2 and a bit weeks. So so in the middle of April we've got international selections, and so it's quite exciting, and I think it's even more exciting because of COVID, weirdly, because it's all behind closed doors, and we've all had to qualify in order to race at those, because usually we would have been a regatta, like a national regatta at the end of March, where if you're fast enough in that regatta, you are kind of allowed or invited to be in the international qualification races, and in that regatta there'd be all the other races as well. Whereas because of COVID, they're just allowing the athletes who have got a shot at being international competitors So it's only those people that are going to be there. So there'll be like all the famous people who've won gold medals and stuff. It's quite exciting.
Yes, that's so exciting. And have you really noticed, like you were saying earlier, where playing as obviously with this wonderful year being nigh on non-existent, have you noticed a real difference in your training? Do you feel more prepared than you would have done necessarily last year?
Massively. It's one of these really weird silver linings for me, like especially being so, I mean, I'm sure, lots of musicians that you will talk to, that suddenly that even if you're an incredibly busy freelancer who's making loads more money than someone in a job, suddenly the person with the job is like, wow, I am so lucky. Like if you're in a position where you can be furloughed, just that, and so many people have fallen through the gaps with the SIS and stuff, that the stability that's given those of us who are lucky enough to be in some kind of job that has an employment contract has been amazing. So that's given me the stability. I mean, unbeknownst to them, the Birmingham Royal Ballet have been funding me to be a full-time athlete this year.
I think they'd be delighted. Yeah.
Thank you very much to them. So that's definitely changed. Just being able to put it at the top of my priorities. Whereas sometimes it was the top of my priorities and sometimes it wasn't. If I had work, I had to go to work.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so definitely it's different of intensity, different of focus, difference of like even when I go to bed and when I get up, because I was training. I had it wasn't that, it was 7:15 start, or 7:30. I think I left this morning, and that I was able to go to bed at 9 last night. Usually if you at 9 o'clock, you've still got 3 pages of music to go and then a 2.5 hour drive. So, next morning's training is either going to be rubbish or you're going to have to say, no, not on for that. Yeah. Totally. Whereas now it is what I can kind of base my life around. But I like the fact that it's just this short period because, it's exciting and I still love it at the moment. I'm not sure I would love it in 5 years.
Right. Yeah.
I'm glad that, I've got, hopefully if the industry survives, that I've got music to go back to because it's a different kind of joy and it's more intellectually stimulating.
Right. And I guess also, it's not often after a session on the bassoon that you probably have to be sick into a bucket, whereas I assume you have to do a bit of that with your kayaking.
Yeah, there is. Actually, the first day that I went to like a Discover Your Gold, like an talent ID day, it was weird because I saw it on Twitter. So since the 2012 Olympics and since my accident, I've been following like some disability rights activists and some Paralympians on Twitter. And these two threads kind of came together and I kept seeing this. Are you disabled and do you do sport? Apply for this Discover Your Gold Day. Because I think they're always looking for new athletes, especially in certain disciplines if they've got athletes that are retiring or whatever. And I thought, I guess I could tick both those boxes. Why not? So I filled out this application form, expecting it to be filed in the big application form called, in the big filing system called the bin. Because I was like, come on. I was then, a mid to late 30s. Unfit, borderline alcoholic, contra bassoonist. Like, have me.
I tell you, that's a lot of ticks there.
Yeah, that's great. So I was expecting them to say absolutely no notice to me, but then I got invited along to this day, and there were some specific kayaking coaches who'd come because they were like, "Yeah, we're looking for female athletes in canoeing or kayaking," and I was like, oh, that's me. But yeah, the day itself, the test that we had to go through, people with with upper limb disabilities were on a watt bike, and those of us with lower limb disabilities were on a ski erg, so a bit like a rowing erg, but like a ski erg. And we all had sick buckets next to us. There was definitely a point before I'd really sorted out my nutrition, I think, when I wasn't really concentrating on how much time to have in between eating and training, or when I'd looked at the program wrong and thought that we were doing a less intense session than a lactic acid session or something, and I'd eaten, too much or too close to training. I was regularly sick in training. Oh, to be honest, I don't think there's a week in training where I'm not either a little bit sick or in tears. And then but somehow these are still my life choices. Yeah.
Well, I remember the Steve Redgrave montage from I think that was, might have even been 2000, where basically it was just sort of vomit and tears and saying, don't ever let me back in a boat again, wasn't it? It's 2004 maybe. Yeah. I guess that's what I'm imagining when I'm thinking of you in your training session.
Yeah, I mean, it's not all like that, but it does happen. Yeah.
So when you went for that first test with them, were you quite fit? Had you sort of been working quite a lot at your fitness?
Yes and no. Like, so I'd with like physios and stuff, and I'd been able to work out there were certain things in the gym that I could do. And so I'd been doing things like the arm bike and stuff quite a bit. And then when I applied for this and knew that I was going to have to go to a talent ID day, I think I upped that a bit. And it was just after I'd been to China for 3.5 weeks for work. And around the work, because it was examining work, there was hardly anything else to do, but there was a gym at the hotel. So I think I probably just spent quite a lot of time at the gym and the hotel doing some weights and just the aerobic work that I could manage, without, using my hip and leg too much. So I was fit-ish, but I've definitely, one of the things that's been amazing about this is I am without doubt the fittest and the strongest that I have ever been. And for that to be after a life-changing injury, I honestly thought when I was lying in that hospital bed, actually I remember two things I remember thinking was, oh shit, I'm never going to win Wimbledon now, am I? Even though I wasn't any good at tennis. And I also thought, I'm never going to be on Strictly, even though I'm not famous. But I think the awareness of I do have apparently I have a disability now and there's things I'm not going to be able to do, but I'd
say you could definitely get on Strictly though. I think you could. There's definitely still a route into Strictly. I wouldn't worry about that.
I mean, now,
if they can do chair dancing, if I can do, because I can only dance for about 3 minutes at a time. So I mean, I guess all their dances are quite short, aren't they?
Yeah. So you were talking about the accent that all of this kind of stems from, and that was 2009, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so what actually? I mean, if you're happy to talk about it, because so what actually happened?
So I was on my way home from teaching, actually, and my car skidded on a dual carriageway and ended up facing the wrong way in the fast lane.
Oh my God.
And but it was weird. It was a slipway, so there was a really wide central reservation, a big grass central reservation. So I got out on there, and some of the cars passed, but then another car came and skidded on the same patch of road and hit me and the car, me as a pedestrian. And so, I mean, I don't remember this next bit. Apparently I flew 10 meters or something in the air. And, I mean, I don't remember much of the rest of it, but what I do remember is when the ambulance arrived and stuff, and I was really confused, and I heard the air ambulance arriving, and the paramedics on the ground started really bitching about the air ambulance, and they were saying this is ridiculous, because I think at the time the helipad was being refurbished or something, so they would have had to land me in a field, and the paramedics would have had to go and get me from that field anyway, and they were. But the vibe was they think they're so special up there, but we're doing a great job here. And I remember thinking, if I can find this funny, if I can find the kind of paramedic politics of this funny, I'm probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
But I was definitely in denial for a really long time.
Right.
Because I was I just thought I'd just broken my leg. And and even when the surgeon, bless him, he came back off his half-term holiday to stitch me back together because I was such a fascinating case. And he's still now apparently when I see him not that regular checkups, he says I take your x-rays and a video of you walking to seminars and say, look, I did this, well done me, because he knitted me back together really well.
That's very heartening that he's using you as an example. That's very good. Yeah.
But even when he said to me, this is a really bad injury, we had to make a big decision during the operation on whether to replace your hip, but we've decided to keep it, but it's not gonna be great. You might have to have an interim hip replacement in a year. It's going to be a 2-year recovery and then you'll plateau. You might have to walk with a stick. And I remember, I just remember this thought crossing my mind when he said 2 years. I remember thinking, you don't know me, give me 6 months, which was stupid because I'm not a surgeon. I don't know what I'm on about. And I definitely suffered from it in that I thought that because I wanted to be better, that I just was better. And I pushed myself to, Pain Clinic have been awesome because Pain Clinic try and teach you to only do on a good day what you can normally do on a bad day, and how, oscillating and stuff isn't good for your pain management. But it's, I think, a combination of realism and optimism is better than just optimism.
But it probably psychologically got you through quite a lot as well, feeling that, having that positivity.
I think definitely some of it has.
Through.
Some of that has,
And did you have to completely relearn how to walk?
Well, I feel like it was evolution and fast forward, because I had to learn how to walk underwater. Because they put me in a hydrotherapy pool, so they used to come like 2 or 3 times a week. The ambulance come and take me to after I was discharged, because I wasn't in hospital that long. It was like 6 weeks or so. Then I had to be on my back for 10 weeks. And then when I was allowed to sit up again, I had to start. And then the annoying thing about that was because I'd also broken my collarbone, which is nothing, compared to a shattered pelvis is the thing that's, lifelong injury. Whereas a broken collarbone is just a broken collarbone. But because it hadn't fixed itself, I couldn't use crutches, which meant that I was in a wheelchair for longer than I would have been otherwise. Plus, in the wheelchair, I could only wheel one side and go around in circles. But that did mean, from a dependency point of view, it just meant I needed someone to push me to the toilet. And that was even when I was able to use a toilet, rather than a bedpan. So that's another thing that's given me just a small closed in time-wise window on the life of someone who has to live that life all the time. No wonder a lot of disabled people are quite cross, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so did you suddenly start to see things in life that were not, buildings that haven't been designed particularly well for disabled people, and particularly venues that we play at, West End venues and that very old buildings?
Massively. I mean, it's still a really big issue for me, to be honest, because I struggle with going downstairs is fine, but upstairs I'm not great with. So many venues that don't have lifts, or if they do have lifts, people are really funny about, this is only for the set. No, you can't use it unless you maybe if you're carrying a harper or a double bass or something. Parking at venues. I mean, there's so many amazing theatres that have had great facelifts at the front of house, but as we all know, the backstage is just dreadful. But there's quite a few venues where it's three flights of stairs to the nearest toilet from the pit. Yeah. And I do wonder, as I get older and the arthritis that the disabilities left me is getting worse, there's part of me thinking, I really hope that by that point in my career that the backstage will have to be more accessible, because if I'm having to spend more time in a wheelchair, that might be an issue. Yeah.
Is there any kind of movement to try and revamp a lot of these old theatres? I mean, this would have been a good time to do a lot of that over this last year.
I guess, but it's expensive, isn't it?
Yeah. I suppose. Not most people are going to be able-bodied that are backstage, so it's probably not at the top of people's priorities, which is awful, because it does exclude people that are disabled, use a wheelchair, from even working in any of those industries. Backstage or in the pit.
Even getting onto a stage quite often. I know I was speaking to somebody a horn player who is in a wheelchair, and was saying exactly that it's, just even something like that, they might have sorted out the backstage, but getting onto the blinking stage itself, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So did you find that post-accident, so you have 10 weeks on your back, my God. I mean, what did you, in terms of starting playing again after that, did you then have to wait quite a long while after that to get going?
It was weird, because I was looking through a study book, and sometimes I'll write, like a massive geek, I'll write the dates on and the metronome marks that I can play them at.
Oh, you're good.
But I had one that was about 3 weeks after I was able to sit up, and it was before I was walking again, and I can't really remember doing that. Yeah, I was able to play for short periods at the time, because even when I was starting to walk again, it was before they'd fixed my collarbone. And because it was my left collarbone and the bassoon kind of is heaviest on the left side, that was a real struggle. So I could play for 15 or 20 minutes at a time, but I wouldn't have been able to do a 3-hour session. But I remember thinking, but that's fine for auditions. So I applied for the principal bassoon of the Opera House, because that's a sensible thing to do from your hospital bed. I didn't tell my parents, because I knew that they'd be like, no, you silly girl, just lie down and get better. But luckily, even though it was kind of a December application deadline, the first audition wasn't until April. So I managed to make that, like, going down, like, with my crutches down to London at that point. And I honestly think that it's one of these things that's just luck again. And also I wonder, like, even in a screened audition, maybe they thought, oh, it's that poor girl who's had a car accident, because they could hear my crutches or something. But yeah, I mean, I think that, like, getting a trial and then working as guest principal with them definitely was a step up in my career. And it's the kind of thing that it's always on your CV. People always know about it.
Yeah.
If they're looking to have people in for guest principals and stuff. So I'm glad that in my morphine haze that I applied. Yeah.
Did you do your audition on morphine as well? Because I bet,
I was on tramadol. I was definitely on loads of tramadol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great that even though in your recovery, you still were really focused on carrying on with the bassoon. It didn't sort of make you think, oh, I'm just going to
do something else. I don't know. I think it shows a lack of imagination, because I remember thinking, like, you have this life-changing accident, and a bit of time off your life, and a little bit like this pandemic. Lots of people have taken the opportunity to think, oh, actually, what do I really want to do with my life? But it wasn't as if I really questioned that, and I didn't, learn French or find Jesus or, like, change career. I just like, all right, I'll just lie here and wait until I can play the bassoon again. But I don't feel like I really interrogated it. But I like playing the bassoon, and I like being given money to play the bassoon. So I'm fine with that choice.
Did you make a lot of reads when you're in your hospital bed?
Oh gosh, I feel like I can't really admit this on a public platform, but I've never made a read in my life.
Hey!
Yes, I love it.
Oh God, life's too short. Like, just buy them. Yeah,
just buy them. Yeah.
Oh, how refreshing to hear that.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm like, okay, all the time, because I never learnt at college. Partly, I think, because I was at university rather than music college, and then when I went to music college for postgrad, it was only a year, and it wasn't enough time to really, like, get down to learning how to do it. And then by the time that you think, oh, actually, maybe I should do it, you think, the first, 100, 200 reads you're going to make are going to be rubbish. I haven't got time in my career to spend on that. That's great to do while you're at college.
Yeah.
But I haven't, and all the time that I'm not spending making reads, I tell myself that, I can be practicing. I mean, the reality that, or watch Homes Under the Hammer in my pants. That's my choice. But I think it's just a bit late now, to be honest. It's a bit late to start. So I think it's expensive. Like, I probably make less money in my career because I spend more of it buying reeds that I then, either I used to pass them on to students or sell them to students, and like with not teaching and stuff, and then they just kind of lie there making me feel guilty. But that's the way I'm choosing to finance my career.
I think that's a very good life balance, to be honest.
It's a funny thing, because, like, I remember when I first heard about the concept of reed making, I was like, I guess that's like a niche thing that you do, but it's kind of the norm for oboists and bassoonists. More so
oboists, I think. I know more bassoonists who buy rather than make, or do a combination of the two. I think maybe, and especially for contrabassoon reeds, I think basically the smaller you get in the reed, the smaller the margin of error, the more personal it is. So, with a contra, you just strap two trees together, really. Crack on. Yeah.
Couple of bits of 2x4. Yeah. Now, was it 4x2? My builder was teaching me all about the different bits of wood. He's teaching me. I can recognise some, but I can never remember which way around it goes. 2x4, 4x2. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah. So you're mainly a contra bassoon player?
Well, no, I am so versatile.
You play guest prince with the
musical hall. I will sit anywhere. I honestly don't mind.
You'll fit in here. That's what we do.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm very happy.
Jack of all trades.
Very happy to, I love playing principal. When you get the tunes sometimes, I don't know if I'd want to do it all the time. I love the kind of subtlety and the, how sensitive you have to be to other people when you're playing second. But I also love on the contra, and all the different sides of playing the contra, that some of the subtleties of playing contra as well, but also just getting to play really loud, farty notes, and you get a shuffle. Like, hooray!
Yeah.
Yes. Who doesn't love not a lot of effort for quite a lot of clapping? Like, yeah.
Because on the contra, you're right next to the brass section. Like, you're like the one person we can see, or maybe you're sat next to a trumpet player or something. So like that's like our only. Oh yeah, well, nice one. We can hear that.
Yeah,
we can see what that
like
one's
the buffer between the wind and the brass.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's a hell of a mediating job.
I find it fascinating. Like when there's a bit in an orchestra and it's mainly the winds are doing something, and I'm always fascinated by the kind of the dynamics within it. As you say, like you've got basically like 8 people, and then you might have a cor anglais or a contra bassoon, or maybe some funny clarinets and flutes. But it's basically you've got those 4 kind of principals in the middle that all kind of feed off each other, and then you've got the supporting players, and it really feels like a well-oiled machine when it's working well. It's incredible. I mean, some of the great orchestras, obviously they're all amazing, but it's a different dynamic, like than the brass section, because it's kind of just the positions of it. The number of players is different, and you're right in the middle of the orchestra. So I don't know what the experience is like, because
I love playing in the wind section. It's exactly what you were saying. Like, and I did for WNO, we did some Beethoven 1 and Beethoven 2, and it's just such beautiful wind writing. Actually, that's being a bit mean to the clarinets, because Beethoven wasn't using the clarinets so much at that time. But there's so much wind chorale stuff. And yeah, exactly. When it works, it's just spine tingling when you feel like everyone is part of this machine. Everyone's a cog in the machine, and the tuning is comfortable, and it's the antennae as well, isn't it? Like everyone's got their own individual part, but it's also people think that our job is creative, but I think it's more interpretative. Like, you're interpreting not only what the composer wants, what the conductor wants, what your first flute wants, what the first bassoon wants, what the cor player, like everything, but then all trying to make something beautiful together. And I think, I hadn't really thought about that. The wind section is very particular in that case. Like, the string sections are all making this amazing sound, but there's 12 of you playing the same part here and interacting differently with the 8 who are playing this part here, and the same with the brass as well, that it's then individuals as one, but there's this very established, especially when it's 8, where there's very established kind of octet of sound. It is. I mean, it's very special, isn't it? When like, this is why we miss it so much, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
It's real kind of. It's got that link to chamber music, I think, with the way the winds work together, and listening as much as think about what you're playing as well. But you mainly listening, really.
Yeah,
isn't it?
I remember the first time I really felt that was I did South Bank. I think in 2009, it was just before my accident. I did a year in South Bank, and I remember for the first time, because getting to work with one of the bassoonists. Shout out to Andrew Watson, my partner in crime. Yes, Watson. Yes, we still refer to ourselves as the dream team because it was just such a musically happy time. And I remember talking to him about how, when we're playing together and when we're really in sync, I am listening and hearing his playing more than my own. And if you're comfortable enough in your playing, you can just kind of meld that around the other person that you're listening to. And it's really great.
I've thought about that more and more over the years, in that my listening, my ears are my kind of primary sense that's at work when I'm playing. And I've tried to kind of instill that idea to students, but I think you have to get to a certain point first, so that whatever's coming out of you is good.
Absolutely.
Before you can get to that next level.
That's so true.
I also think it's a really good way of coping with anxiety and nerves. I think if you're listening more and thinking more as a unit, you sort of can almost forget that thing of feeling worried about what you're doing and it being this way. Because obviously, especially in an orchestra or a chamber ensemble, it's so much about the combined sound. So I think it's a really good way of combating nerves, starting to listen to somebody else more than yourself.
Absolutely.
So that's what I've been trying.
And I think it's something that I've found hugely with the kayaking as well, with having the confidence in your own ability. And like you said, Seb, when you're trying to teach it to students, and maybe the reason that they can't open their ears to other people is because it's taking so much effort to produce the sound that they want anyway. And I think that as professional musicians, that it takes years to get to that point where you're comfortable and confident enough in your own playing that you can open up to other people. And I'm finding that at the moment in my kayaking, I'm still at that point where I can't. Not that, it's not like I'm in a team or should be taking any notice of my competitors, but I'm having to think so hard that it's really hard to relax. And I was talking to a friend about, I was having kind of a bit of a crisis of self-confidence and lack of self-belief in my kind of athletic abilities. And I said, it just reminds me so much of how I used to feel about my bassoon playing throughout most of my 20s. I would always have imposter syndrome. At a certain point in every gig, I would think, I'm just not good enough to be here. I'm just not good enough to be here. And she was trying to convince me. She was like, yeah, and see, you were wrong because you are. And I was like, no, I think I was right. It's just taken a really long time for me to get here, to get to the point where I'm confident in my playing because it's good enough. Whereas with kayaking, I think I'm still, I'm in that odd space that because of the way that the Paralympic sport is still quite young for kayaking, and I've come into it as having no athletic background, at the same time as possibly, hopefully competing internationally, I'm kind of still a beginner, and I know that the idea of the 10,000 hours has been disputed, but I think there is something in just the whatever number of hours it is before you feel like, oh, no, okay, I get this now. And sometimes when I'm having a crisis of self-belief in kayaking and my coach is saying, you've got this, believe in it. I feel like I say back, I know what it feels like to be able to do something well, and it's not this. And it's almost bad to have the comparison of I have confidence in my playing because it feels so different because I don't have the 10,000 hours in kayaking. But then it's I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and there's one called the High Performance Podcast, which is really great. It's a lot of sports people, but lots of business people. Evelyn Glennie as well did one recently, but I've been listening kind of specifically to the sporting ones. The kind of accepting that, but this is where we are. I have put in so much work into training and so what can I deliver given where we're at? How can I deliver well in this session, in this race? Even though you might not be comfortable around this bit or this bit, focus on, having to get used to doing something that I don't have confidence that I'm doing it well in. Yes. I'm still doing it to the best of my current ability. Yeah.
Absolutely. Can you also conversely use some of the psychology that you'd use, say going into an audition or, where there's a big pearly solo coming up? Can you go through similar thought processes when you're in a race or when you're in an intensive training session?
Hugely. Actually, I've definitely come to realize that being a musician has made me a better athlete, and being an athlete has made me a better musician. There's so many similar. Actually, I just need to kind of disclaimer the athlete word. I still feel slightly uncomfortable self-identifying as an athlete. No. I remember when we had to sign up to parking, for the first race I did in the team, and you had to fill out your registration and then either tick athlete or staff. And I was like, oh, is there not an other box that I can I'm not sure about this. But I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around the self-identity, disability as well. Being part of the Paralympic team has massively helped me reframe my understanding of disability because, before my accident, I knew very little about disability. But to be honest, in between 2009 and 2018, when I first got involved with the team, I didn't know many disabled people, much less many disabled people my age. So being involved in the para team and meeting all these different athletes with a huge range of disabilities, also a huge range of longevity of their impairments. Some people are born with it. Some people, had their amputation last year. So there's a huge range of where people are on their journey and self-identity. And a range of how visible the disability is, because mine is quite often, if I'm not using a mobility aid, mine is kind of invisible. so that's all, meeting other people who have invisible disabilities and just getting to talk about the frustrations of that. And that's been interesting. But let me go back to, you had a really interesting question that I didn't answer. Oh, about the psychology. That's right. The psychology, bringing in on the start line. Yeah. I think one thing that it's made me realize is how bad we are as musicians at self-belief and positivity. It's seen as almost embarrassing, isn't it? Like, you're supposed to always be saying, oh God, I'm rubbish, I'm going to mess this up, I'm going to like all this stuff. And talking about, especially on the start line, another athlete that I was talking to was saying, on the start line, I never even think I'm not going to wobble, because that puts the word wobble in your head. Like, you need to be thinking, like the positive visualization. And I thought, I don't think I've ever done that before a solo. I've always just thought, oh God, what if that note's sharp, and what if I crack on that? And so it's really taught me how to, like, it's okay to think positively about my playing as well. And also to recognize when you're pushing yourself too hard. Just the fact that, in sport, I have, or certainly when I was training more at Nottingham at the National Watersport Centre, there as a team, when I was on the talent pathway, we had a sports psychologist and a strength and conditioning coach, and then your actual coach and someone to talk to about lifestyle and stuff. And you think, when you come out of college, you've got nothing. You're just you, and just having these people to help you. And especially when you practice, it's just like, oh, I think I need to practice this bit, and I'll go for as long as before it becomes shit. Whereas in training, it's the training sessions are they're written by someone else. Brilliant. Very happy to abdicate all of that.
Yeah.
And secondly, they are finite and measurable. And trying to bring that into my practice of being because I might be doing, 40 seconds on, 20 seconds on, times 5 times 6. And when that's over, that's over. Whereas in practice, now I'm trying to be like, okay, so I'm going to practice this for 5 minutes, and this I'm going to do until it gets to this metronome mark. And if it doesn't, you don't. And yeah.
That sounds fantastically positive on your playing. That's really great. And I know we've talked about this a while back when we talked about that, what's it called? The Pomodoro method, where you is it 30 minutes? No, hang on, it's less than that, isn't it?
I think 20 or 25 minutes.
Yeah, so that you're...
Set a stopwatch, and then you do little chunks, and you might get to the end of one and go, I'm going to carry on actually, and then you just do another one. But it just makes it a bit more, measurable or...
Yeah.
What's the smart thing?
Oh yeah, measurable is one of them, definitely.
Yeah, specific.
Specific, realistic, measurable.
So it just gives you a thing. I've done 3 of those this morning.
Well done, me.
Well done. Have a cup of tea, bit of cake. Maybe not cake if you're an Olympic athlete. And then, do some of them. And that seems to work quite well. Just make sure it just focuses you a bit more.
Yeah.
Because you can easily just start practicing and then do about 2 hours. And as you say,
it can be very aimless, can't it? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard recently, Rob said to me that you've recently did a recording of Ombre Mafu. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
And he said,
a surprise.
Well, he said it was absolutely stunning, and you played it beautifully, because you were playing the solo line, weren't you? The vocal line.
It was really funny because when the Phil Ellis, the conductor, wanted to speak to me, I think it was the orchestral manager first wanted to speak to me to say, we're going to do this recording of Ombre Mafu, so I just wanted to speak to you about it. And I thought, oh, right, yeah, he wants me to do the continuo. I think especially because our principal cellist wasn't able to come over because of quarantine and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do the continuo. I'm like, oh, how exciting. and solo, are you sure you know I play the bassoon, right? Yeah. So, but it was lovely. It was lovely to be able to, especially because we got given a kind of guide recording to Sheila, and it was so beautiful that actually, in a way, I was like, my creativity is being stifled because they're saying, oh, do the ornaments like this person and do the phrasing and everything like this person. But that in itself, a bit like playing second bassoon, was a nice exercise in being able to do a facsimile of something, and then sometimes try and but what would I do differently? Even if for the recording that they want, I'm going to do more of a facsimile. But it was nice. Yeah, it was just nice to play a tune.
Yeah. What are the bassoon lines like generally in the ballet? Do you get nice, juicy tunes? Or actually,
it's not bad in the ballet, especially Prokofiev. And in the Prokofiev, I tend to play the contra, and it's just awesome. It's so juicy.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Do you do Romeo and Juliet quite a lot?
Yes, we do. Oh. And last year I got to do it at the Opera House as well. And so I got my hat trick because I think I'd been when we do it at Birmingham, I'm on contra. I'd been booked to play second for it for the Opera House, and then there was one day when I think the principal was ill, and I can't remember if I was in a second and sat up, or whether they just got me in separately. And I was like, oh, boom, bop, bop, bop. Done all the parts for that ballet. Yeah.
Did they give you a certificate for that? Please say they did.
I want a little medal. Yeah.
Yeah, quite right.
There's some amazing bassoon bits in that
yes.
ballet. There's some really weird harmonies and lines.
Prokofiev's just amazing, isn't he?
So good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. It's like the sort of market, maybe the market scene or something like that, like where there's people quite early on, I think, in the...
I was about to sing it now, and then I remembered this was a podcast, so I'm not.
Go on, sing. No.
Oh, but yeah, we've got Cinderella coming up, which is extremely exciting because, so Birmingham Ballet doing Cinderella.
Right.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing it in Plymouth and a couple of weeks in Birmingham at the Rep Theatre. But because of the COVID restrictions, still, especially during rehearsals and stuff, it's a smaller orchestration. So I'm a bit bereft because it's one bassoon. So I don't get to play contra. I mean, I do get to play all the things on the bassoon, and like it's going to be a bit of a smack in the mouth, I think, especially doing two in a day. And bring along my oxygen tank for that, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Are those gigs confirmed? Like, if there is any more COVID again, will it become a sort of streamed thing instead?
I don't know. I guess it could do, like if everything goes tits up. But I mean, they've announced it and they're selling tickets, so it is going ahead. But I guess like the Nutcracker that we did before Christmas, that was supposed to be with audience, and then suddenly there was the extra lockdown. But they really pulled it out of the bag to do it streamed, and it was really beautifully because it was funny, wasn't it? At the beginning, there's so much online content, and some of it's like. That's not, the fact that it's during the pandemic is literally the only reason for putting this out there, because the quality is shocking. Yeah. So, I think the company have been really good about trying to put out really good quality content. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about examining, right? ABRSM examining. How did you get into that in the first place? Because it's quite a rigorous training program.
Oh my God, the training. I mean, it is, like you say, very rigorous. I remember when I did the training weekend, which is like, it's a really tough weekend. It's a really steep learning curve, which is really interesting. I guess a little bit like the kayaking, in that everyone's doing it is already good at what they do. There's lots of people who are heads of music at school, lots of mainly professional musicians who are good at what they do, and they impart that knowledge to other people. And suddenly you're in something that is in your field, but examining itself is hard and needs a lot of training. Yeah, and that weekend was so tiring. I remember after the first Friday, we call it the grade one of doom, comes at the end of day one of training, where basically they just run a grade one exam from beginning to end without cuts, and you just have to mark it. And I think they probably especially choose one of the ones where there's shortest pieces, because like a grade one piece on piano might be 30 to 45 seconds long, and within that time you need to have formed an opinion, chosen a mark, and based on the criteria, and probably chosen 3 points of that criteria to explain how you've come to why this is the right mark. And as trainees, you're starting to listen to that, you're starting to think about all these things, and you might have started writing one word and they finished, and then they start the next piece and you go, oh my God. And then you're panicking about whether you're supposed to be listening to the second piece and writing, or going back and writing about the first piece before you've forgotten that. And some people just leave at that end of that Friday night because they're just like, no, not for
I'm
me.
out. Yeah.
And I specifically remember staying in a hotel in London and brushing my teeth that evening and being like, oh, what is that? And I'd brush my teeth with Savlon. And I think it was just because I was so exhausted. But it is amazing.
That sounds like self-sabotage to me, actually. I'm not going back. blow it.
Exactly.
Get the Savlon out.
Poison myself with Savlon, yeah. But it's, it's like anything, you can't rush a good job. It takes practice. The training, I think, is very rigorous. And then you get to, follow and mentor people while they're examining, and then you are observed examining and stuff. And then the kind of, when you get moderated, once every few years, it's a chance to kind of just, if your dials need resetting and annual conferences and stuff.
Which instruments do you find most challenging to mark? Because that must be really, I would think percussion for me would be pretty tricky.
Oh, I had a couple of grade 8 percussions last week, actually. And
did you?
They were my first ones. And so I was a bit like, I haven't done one before. But, you have a lot of the music in front of you, or have access to it. And, is the rhythm right or not? Yeah. And also, there's still things the shape of the music and the performance element of it. And actually, I think for most examiners, the most difficult instrument to examine is your own, because it's easier then to go into teaching mode and to say, for me, it'd be like, you're not flicking your thumb keys enough. Whereas actually what you're trying to examine is the musical outcome. And the musical outcome of not flicking your thumb keys enough is that the articulation isn't clear and that the slurs are bumpy. And so the shape or the melody line or the line, the direction of the phrasing isn't clear. And that's actually easier to comment on an instrument where you might not have the minutiae of how that's happening, but you can tell that what's coming out is really nice or needs work here or
Yeah.
I did a grade 6 piano a couple of years ago.
Oh, well done.
Thanks. I must have had nothing on in my life. I just
God, how times have changed, Seb.
I know. I got a piano from the school I was teaching at. They were getting rid of it, so I had this piano. I was like, I love it, and I love playing the piano. But I'd only got to grade 2 when I was a kid. I'd sort of practiced some harder stuff when I was younger, but I thought, I'm going to try and do it. So I did grade 6 and went through the whole process of being on the
other side.
I'm not an examiner, but be an examinee, and it was very strange.
Yeah, how did you find how nervous were you compared to your normal work when you went into that exam room?
I was a little bit nervous actually. What I found, I actually spent all morning practicing my scales, because
there's a lot at grade 6.
There's a lot, and I realised a few days earlier that I just hadn't put in enough time. I hadn't learnt it, but the thing is, because I play the trumpet, you can't practice before something big on the day, but on the piano you can. So I just did probably 3 hours of practice, but scales are so hard. If you just start on the wrong finger, you're done.
Yeah.
And I think as musicians, quite often we think that, because we know the key signatures, which is where a lot of our students fall down, we're way ahead. But especially in piano, the reason that you're doing the scales in the piano is not just for your theory, it's for technique, isn't it? And being able to run up and down that instrument. And therefore, if you haven't started on finger 4, or you've gone over on 3 instead of 4 or something, then you're it's just going to, as in, if you're playing a Mozart concerto, it's going to come out rubbish if you start on the wrong finger. Yeah.
I remember that getting slower and slower. One of my scales, where I was like, I know I'm so far off, but rather than just try and get to the end, I just slowed to all. Yeah, it was lovely.
The flow became a little stilted towards the end.
There we are.
Do you find yourself writing very similar phrases? I keep writing that same phrase every time.
Sometimes, yeah. Especially if you've got I've got a day of grade 3 pianos coming up. It's all grade 3 piano. Yeah. And it's hard. It's harder. I mean, quite often you might have some students who might be all from the same teacher, and teachers vary in quality as well as, and that's really sad when you feel like this teacher has taught all these pupils the same mistakes. That's really sad. But no, I mean, it's you're kind of practicing your creative writing as well, trying to find a different way of saying, okay, you've got the notes and the rhythms right, but there's not much music in here, is there? Yeah.
Exactly. I bet you can have a right laugh at some of the accompanying that goes on as well. I'm just going to hold my hand up here and say that my accompanying of my pupils is absolutely diabolical. Yeah. Sometimes I get overconfident. I think I can get up to grade 3, grade 4 quite safely. Go beyond that, It's a flipping write-off, but that hasn't stopped me having a go sometimes.
Piano is so not hard. I've done a little bit of accompanying over lockdown, and like when we were able to have people in our gardens after the first one, so I've got a digital piano that I put outside in the garden with an extension lead. So sadly for me, the two closest friends that I have who are musicians are both viola players.
I'm ever so sorry.
No, but actually, oh my God, we've played some amazing stuff. Like, it's been lovely. But, the amount of work there is, like on the hard piano parts, it was just, I've never worked so hard on piano as having to accompany people playing real instruments. Yeah. Not doing it
You've got to be pretty good at piano to be an examiner, right? Because like when I've done practice oral tests with kids, I'll play something through and I'll say at the end, now what happened to the speed here? And they'll go, sort of slowed down a bit. I'll go, sorry, wasn't meant to do that. It's like, it's hard, like, because you've got to do, they're really tricky things, aren't they? Like 8 bars of hard piano stuff, and then you've got to get all those details right. So then you've got to ask them questions. They've got to get it right. Yeah,
it's really like, because if you get something wrong, especially if it's something related to the question you're asking, you can't mark them down for that. In the same way as that, Brady, you're talking about accompanist. If the accompanist is rubbish, that's not that child's fault. You need to be, you're putting that to one side because you're just examining the child or the candidate. They may be an adult sometimes.
Yeah, it could be an adult.
Yeah,
and in their early 30s.
Yeah. Doing grade 6. Yeah.
Cream egg in pocket, ready for after.
Oh, yeah.
Well done, me. Yeah.
My mum used to always take me to KFC. So.
I always go to McDonald's after, if I've had like a little operation or pain clinic or something. It's like pretty much the only time I go to McDonald's, I'm like, well done, me. It's like, you were very brave, bad, and a McDonald's. Yeah.
What'd you get at McDonald's? What's your choice?
Chicken McSandwich, actually. Yeah.
Ooh.
And then, well, I've changed recently because I used to have chicken sandwich meal, and drink would vary, but then a McFlurry. But then I remember thinking, well, I could amalgamate the drink and the McFlurry by just having a milkshake.
Yes.
But actually...
I thought there was a but coming there.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it just...
Are they not the most nutritious things?
I looked at, guess how many calories there are in a large McDonald's vanilla milkshake?
20,000.
Not far off.
Not quite.
Yeah. It is 850 though.
Woof.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And none of that is nutrition. Yeah.
That sounds like a ideal post-race scenario. I think you need to get one of them.
That's a really good idea.
Little
On my way
treats.
back from Nottingham. Yeah.
Oh, is it going to be in Nottingham, the trials? Are they there?
Yeah. So all the national regattas are in Nottingham.
Will there be rounds? Do you have to go through semis and
there's just 3. We're adding up everyone's placement from 3 races on the day. Yeah. And then if I get to the Europeans, there's I think there's 2 heats, a semi-final and a final. It depends. Sometimes there's a few semi-finals and then final A and final B. But I'm trying not to look too far ahead.
No.
Yeah.
Where would the Europeans be?
In Germany, which is currently a COVID nightmare. So
good ho.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Are you kind of looking, because I guess, well, obviously Tokyo, fingers crossed this summer's going to be going ahead. Are you looking to Tokyo, or in your mind, are you looking towards Paris in 2024?
Yeah, it's more Paris, to be honest, because, so at the moment, there are at least three women who are faster than me who are full-time funded athletes at Nottingham. And so the top 2 boats will get to go to the Worlds, and from the Worlds, the one boat who will get to go to Nottingham will go to Tokyo.
Right.
So unless I suddenly become 5 to 10 seconds faster, that's not going to be me. I still feel like I'm on quite a steep trajectory. So who knows in the future?
Come on. We want to come over and see you in Paris. I'm going to be there with, with a loudspeaker, in fact, if that's allowed.
I'll be quite old by then, I think. As well. Although the gold medalist in Rio in like my discipline was 49 when she got the gold, so there's hope for us all. Yes.
I'm recording on this. Okay.
3, 2, 1. Hey.
Hi. Oh, that was good. That was brilliant, Llinos. I think we need to explain what's going on here.
We went back into our old habits.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, that was great. But really, what's happened in the meantime is that we've had a complete technical meltdown.
Breakdown.
And I think my microphone stopped working, which is annoying.
Oh, God, really? Well, my Logic has, so I'm now on a phone flipping memo. In the meantime, I've recorded a really strange little thing by myself because I thought we'd lost Seb completely.
Yeah.
So now...
Well. And Zoom just kept crashing.
It's just so great. Oh, I know. It's been one thing after another. Oh, well. We're back online in one form or another now, so never mind.
You're waving away.
Can you see that I'm waving my arm? I literally can't take anything else. Nothing else can go wrong now.
Extra factors, please.
No more.
Well,
no.
Hey, wasn't that a great chat? That was a really inspirational chat.
Oh, it was so great. So great. She's amazing. And I really, really hope she goes to Paris. And I hope that we can watch her there.
Paris would be really great.
Para-kayaking.
I hadn't really thought about that. You're a massive Olympics fan, aren't you?
Huge. Yeah. I mean, I used to get Athletics Weekly as a child.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah. Proper, fully embracing the sadness of my my sports fanatism. No, what's the word? Anyway, never mind. Get rid of that.
I'm not.
I can no longer speak. Oh. Hang on.
Did I just hear a metronome?
Yeah, so now I'm recording on Logic as well, but that's no use to anyone, so it doesn't matter. I'm just fed up with technology.
You can go back to the Logic recording if you like.
What, can we?
Yeah, if it's recording.
It's just that you would have just missed the first section of that really insightful outro that we've just done.
And then it will go into your other one.
Okay.
So just keep both
lovely.
Going, and then we'll see.
Okay, great. Okay. Oh, what is it? Happy Easter, Seb. Happy Easter.
Hold the voice memo near your mouth, just in case.
Still? Yeah, okay.
Oh, look, if it's the first time you've listened to this show, then it's not always like this. We've usually got it quite sorted.
Yeah. We're a well-oiled machine. This is an anomaly, isn't it?
It feels like the kind of season finale of lockdown technology. Like we've finally...
I really hope it is.
Yeah.
Do you?
Well, I can't. I don't want it to get worse than this.
No, I don't think we can. I think that's actually impossible.
Well, yeah, no, it's Easter, isn't it?
Yeah. Happy Easter. And another momentous thing, right? It is a special episode for us on so many levels, so special. But we've been podcasting for a year.
Hey.
This marks a year of podcasting. So happy birthday.
I didn't realise that. Happy birthday. That's great.
Yeah. Hooray.
How many did we manage to get out? It's
quite incredible, isn't it?
This is the 47th, isn't it?
47th, but we've had a couple of bonus ones in there.
Yeah.
So unofficially, we're probably up to about 50. It's excellent, isn't it?
That's not bad then. We've only taken off a couple of weeks over the whole year. Yeah. That's pretty good. I know.
Sterling effort.
Yeah.
We've chatted to some cracking people. It's been really, really fun. So, hooray!
Yeah. Oh, that's been great. Well done. Well done for doing it with me.
Well done. And well done you. Yeah.
Good.
Well done.
We'll do one more year and then stop.
I think it's... Yeah, that's it. Done. I feel like this is a sad way to mark it, with me holding an iPhone and really reverting to the basics of technology. It's like I've learned nothing at all.
No. We'll be recording straight to wax cylinder before we know it, won't we? Just...
Yes, we will.
Well, so did we talk about anything in the show that people could check out more of? Could people...
I mean, just thoroughly get involved in the whole Para-kayak, para-canoe tea. Yeah.
Is sport still on
Do
at
it.
like 4 a.m. on telly on a Saturday morning?
Oh, what Transworld Sport? Did you used to watch that? I loved that show.
Like,
it was
told to
great.
go back to bed.
Yes.
I'm like,
but how can you if you're watching watching a great game of kabaddi? You can't possibly turn in after that, can you?
And if I wasn't watching that, I'd be watching CFAX with me and my brother. We'd just watch teletext and CFAX dance around. All that stuff's gone.
God,
now, isn't
CFAX, what a great thing! Yeah,
and Transworld Sport. I mean, people just watch YouTube if you want to watch some niche.
That's
sport.
such a shame. It was so good. That and like Pop World. Then I loved Pop World
with Simon Amstel.
Yeah,
that was on a different time of the
that was
day.
a Sunday morning. That was a bit further on a Sunday morning after you've done Transworld Sport and a few cartoons.
Oh yeah, good old days.
Yeah.
Was it good? Was it? Is it better now? Right in. Tell us.
Please do tell us.
Hello at threeinabar.com.
Yeah, we love your correspondence. Go on, send some in.
What else do we talk about? Nothing really. Let's let people get back to their lives.
Yeah, go on. Enjoy this bank holiday weekend, and if you're on your holidays, well, at home, have a lovely one.
Yeah.
We are not going to be with you next week. A little break, just for I know we have a little week off. I think we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh, we're not.
I
don't know.
Please, can we have a week off? Please, no.
There we are.
Tell you what,
we have decided that.
I know we had a week off a couple of weeks ago, but I'm actually moving into my house this week, and I just I've had a few like very, very late nights because the carpets went in yesterday, which was very exciting and great. But 2 nights before that I was up
exciting.
to 4 a.m. painting, and then 2 a.m. the next night. So,
oh God,
I had about 4 hours sleep for both those nights. I just slept today, listener, for 12 hours.
Amazing, amazing.
You go too far.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you feel more tired as a consequence of that now?
I do.
Yeah.
But
dear.
So I got to do that. I'm going to move in, and that's going to be a wonderful thing. And
it is going to be a wonderful thing.
So if it's all right with you guys, we're going to have a week off, and then the next week we're going to do some more interviews and then we'll be back on track, and then it'll be fine. It'll be all good. It's normal.
It'll be fine.
Normal service will resume. And
yeah. But, thanks for sticking with us over there. I think, we've stuck with it too, haven't we? I mean, thank you guys for listening. But honestly, I don't know how you've managed to get through this month of painting, decorating, all sorts, plus podcasting. So well done for you for sticking with it.
Thank you. I really can't wait. I just want to have a couple of days off doing nothing.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Do it. Just lie on that carpet. Do the equivalent of snow angels.
Yeah.
Did you? Excellent. Oh, what a joy.
I've not.
In your newly painted rooms. Very lovely.
Have you had new carpets put down recently? Ever? Or
No. Not for a while. Not since we moved. We could really do with that. We've had a new kitchen laminate put down. That's not quite the same thing. It feels very cold. But new carpets. Oh, it's magnificent, isn't it? I love that.
I don't really know if I've ever experienced that. It's a wonderful smell.
Yeah, it is.
And soft, very soft.
Soft to the touch.
Cloud 9 underlay. If that means anything to you?
Oh.
I think it's 12 mil.
It does mean something to me. Yeah, it does. That's very luxurious, isn't it?
Do you know that one?
I know underlays. I was going to say like the back of my hand. Not like the back of my hand. Yeah. Because I remember going through this same scenario moving in here. Umming and ahhing. Oh, it's a joy, isn't it?
It is. I also laid some cork floor in my kitchen this week.
Did you?
And that was difficult.
How did that go?
It was fine. Yeah.
I'm sure.
It was good. It's like a tongue and groove one. So you have to start in one corner and then slowly make your way. But if you decide, like I did, to redo a bit in the middle, it's difficult. It's very difficult.
Oh.
And I've basically I've slightly made it all a bit small because you're meant to account for expansion. And so there are some big big gaps at the edges, but I think it's okay. It's
not to worry,
charming because I did it. I didn't pay someone else to do it.
Exactly. I love it when you have to use that expression. Oh, it's charming. It's got a certain charm. Any DIY or anything that I make, it's charming.
I'm really excited and glad this period's over, because it's just been a crazy time. I've been as I started saying in last week's episode to David Taylor, when he asked me a completely different question, I just started saying, oh yeah, I've just been living, not in my own home. I've been living with my mother-in-law, and then I've been going and decorating like as much as possible, then just sleeping, and I've not been able to see my family. And I've finally done that bit. It's all over. I've just got Easter weekend now, and then on Tuesday we're going to start unpacking boxes and putting things away and living in our new home. So that's what I'm doing now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I don't want to get too sentimental on a Easter weekend, but that's what I'm going through.
It's always a danger. No. Well, look, this is wonderful.
And I've gone through the whole of Lent and I haven't eten a single cream egg.
No wonder you're feeling messed up.
Yeah, my levels are wrong.
That's not right.
My levels are all off.
They really are. Reset. Have you got a stash ready to go?
No, unless I've been bought some today. I don't think so.
Let's hope so.
Oh, by the way, did you have a lovely birthday?
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
The other day.
I did have a... Thanks very much. I did have a lovely birthday. It was so great that we can rule of 6 again. So I had 5 friends out in the garden. I know, it was lovely. And thanks so much for my espresso martini cocktails.
Oh, yeah. Did you drink it?
I haven't yet because I wanted to. I very nearly had one at about 11 o'clock that evening. And literally, I wouldn't have slept for the week. But I'm really excited. I'm going to do it next week. I'm going to pick a day where I don't need to sleep. I love it, though. It's amazing. It looks terrifying and fantastic.
Great. I'm glad you got it.
Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
That was great.
Hey, next week is, no podcast, but... I'm trying to think.
No.
We're not allowed in the pub yet, are we? The week after we are.
No. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. April the 12th.
April 12th.
Bring it on. Yeah.
I've booked a haircut to sort this out.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm desperately trying to track down my hairdresser. It's so much. You haven't got a mass of hair on there to sort out.
But it's all the same length and it's all about an inch.
Oh, I see.
An inch long. So it looks silly. It looks silly. So he's going to just sort me out. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, isn't it going to be a wonderful thing? I think I'm going to lose about 2 pounds when I cut this and cut my hair off. It's so heavy. Oh, wonderful things.
Right. I got to go.
Right. Let's let them go. Come on. And let you go and let I go.
Yeah.
I go.
Have a great couple of weeks.
Yes.
April. Yeah. It's all happening.
Hooray.
All right. Bye, everyone. Rate, review, subscribe, share, all that. Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Looking for a new podcast to listen to? Here's what we love, courtesy of Acast Recommends.
My name is Hind Hassan. I work as a foreign correspondent for Vice News. Power is at play in every single interaction that happens in our lives. And that's what we're going to explore all over the world. Strongman from Vice News, coming to you on March 18th. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast recommends.